Kenaisteline, Katapu, Karunafer, Inakushe Inakabo. Welcome, bienvenue. Akwaba, Karibu Sana. You're tuned in to the African Ancestral Manuscript Jeliba channel. I am the Jeliba on Blind Tibin. I'm going to be accompanying you to the story of an ancestor today, and we're going to be accompanying you through this ancestor's great works. Every day we are here, and the ancestors are with us, and they're empowering and enabling us to continue to bring you our divine ancestry so that you can reclaim it and reclaim your greatness. Ancestors in the tradition of the Kemetic tradition of Tawi, ancient Egypt, was the Shepsu. Tradition of the Yoruba and the Ifa is the Egungun, the Khan, the Abasan, and yeah, they're enlightened. We need to go into our different traditions and resurrect our traditions. We need to understand, overstand our cosmology and epistemology, our geomancy, our divinity, because the world is thirsting for it. I mean, even those in the traditional Western religions are looking for outs because they know that that is not the complete essence of what they should be. Their essence is divine. So, good news. Today, we got 100 copies of my new book, Broken Coconuts in Our Grandmother's Grave. It's available for sale. Message me if you need it. I deliver throughout the GTA. Otherwise, you can just order it online, Amazon, Walmart, Target, Barnes & Nobles, anywhere books are sold, you can pick it up. But if you do get it from me, the advantage you're going to get is going to be signed. And its value is going to augment exponentially in the years to come. Mark my words. Broken Coconuts on Our Grandmother's Grave. Dedicated to my Grandma Jane, the most influential, inspirational woman I knew in my life, and who continues to shine her light from the ancestral plane as a divine enlightened ancestor and Shepsu. Ashe to her. Moving on. This is my last text from which this channel derives its essence, its flame. It's the African Ancestral Manuscript. And I am the African Ancestral Manuscript Jeliba, who tells you the stories of these great ancestors on a day-to-day basis. Gather around the fire with your children, with your aunts, your uncles, and listen to these stories. These stories are going to take you far, and they're going to project your consciousness into higher planes of awareness. Ashe. So, let's get into the story. On va aller directement de l'histoire d'aujourd'hui. On va aller en plein dans l'histoire et on va vous émerveiller avec l'histoire de cette grande dame, this wonderful woman who we're going to talk about today. We have the stool. Stools in African tradition, like the golden stool of the Ashanti, generally represent kingship. The stool is something which you sit upon when you're a higher being, something which you commune with the council of elders upon. Every different king, every different royalty had their stool, and they would sit on the stool, and they would have people carry around their stool, because the stool represented divine kingship in many traditions, and just great wisdom. Somebody who has a stool which is assigned to them. This is our stool, the stool of the Jeliba. Today, we're sitting on the spiritual tool, this stool, to tell you the story of Kahina. Kahina is the story for today. Eel. Ow. One day, Kahina binde. Let's hear about who Kahina was. Queen Kahina. In 639 AD, a new conquering force swept into Africa. The Arabians seized Egypt, Cyrenaica, Tripoli, and rushed to Carthage and Numidia. The invasion swept away 600 years of Roman occupation. The new conquerors spread Islam from Egypt to Morocco and also into Spain. The Spanish conquest was achieved with African help. The invaders also destroyed many Africans, enslaved many, and caused others to flee further south to evade their clutches. Kusilia of Mauritania resisted, but he was defeated and killed in 688 ACE, after the Common Era. Dahilia al-Kahina became leader of the African resistance. She followed the old Carthaginian religion. This differs from Judaism, but also shares some affinities with it. There are, of course, African Jews in many parts of Africa, such as the Falashas of Ethiopia, the Lembe of South Africa, and many more. Arab records describe her, that means Queen Kahina, as having dark skin, a mass of hair, and huge eyes. She was a sister, fully bled African woman. The comment referring to her hair may refer to an afro or perhaps dreadlocks. So she was rocking the fro and the locks. She was definitely a proud sister. Dr. Henry Clark describes her as a nationalist who favored no particular religion. This may explain her effectiveness in bringing together a united front against the Arab invaders. She counterattacked the invaders and drove them into Tripolitania. This was so effective that some Arabs doubted whether Africa could be taken. As one African army was beaten, another replaced them. The Arabs seized Carthage in 698 ACE. The Haya, or Kahina, defeated them and instituted a scorched earth policy to prevent the Arabs from being able to find crops to feed on in the region. The desolation can be even seen today in the southern Tunisia. Eventually, however, the Arabs returned. Kahina was finally defeated in battle in 705 ACE, and North Africa was overrun. This was when the Bedouin, the people of North Africa, were distinctive and they weren't Arabs, okay? Today, Black people are a large minority in North Africa. So let's not forget they're a large minority in all the countries in North Africa. They are the indigenous people of the land, though, with most of their population being of mixed white and black ancestry. So they're pretty light-skinned, most of them. Kahina demonstrated a great strength of conviction, and she was never defeated and never let anyone force her to change her religion and beliefs. She is a great hero to this day in Northern Africa and around the world. So they celebrate her in Tunisia, Morocco, and in those places, Algeria, she's celebrated as a great queen. Berber and Bedouin and the blue people of the Nile as well, the Tuareg. These are common people who are generally mixed, but they have a strong base of African blackness in them. And they got, over the years, they got more and more mixed with Europeans and different Romans and different people, invaders. So we like to give thanks to Queen Kahina. We look at that name, we see Ka, the division of the spirit that is within the higher planes of existence, within the higher beings, is within her name. Kahina. It's a powerful name, it's a word of power. Let's give thanks for our great Queen Kahina, who was able to put up a respectable front when the Arabs overran North Africa. And being a woman, it was even harder because the misogyny within those people was very strong. And they were very embarrassed to know that an African woman like Kahina could stand up to them and almost be victorious till the bitter end. So we give thanks to Kahina. This is a stool similar to the one she must have sat upon to govern her nation with greatness and with passion and without relenting and never giving up in the face of invasion, in the face of total and possible annihilation. She was still able to maintain her peace and maintain her struggle for the people of North Africa and her religion. So she did not trade off, she did not blend, she did not compromise herself. Let us think about this in the Herakuti cycle. Remember the difference between the warrior and the soldier. 4 videos back, I talk about that. You can refer back to that and think about that as we go forward. The warrior is able to see himself victorious in every situation, focus on his goals, and not fall for the distractions. There are many distractions in this society, distracting you from your divinity. Do not fall for them. Focus on what is right and just and exact, and what you need to accomplish to elevate humanity, so it can reflect and vibrate at a higher frequency. Peace and blessings to one and all. Je vous remercie. Thank you for being for listening to what you get for talk. We will talk to you now just now. We now go to see we make other video for you now. So have a peaceful evening. I like to say in the traditions of the Swahili, Lala Salama. In the traditions of the Amharic, I like to say Danader. In the traditions of the Yoruba, I like to say Odabo. In the tradition of the different traditions, we just like to say the different words. In the tradition of ancient Kemet, we would say Keru Nefer. Good evening or good night. Have a good and peaceful evening. Peace and blessings. Study about Kahina. Learn some more. Read more about her. They might have pictures of her which depict her as European because that's what they have been doing to whiteify lots of people in North Africa. But we know better. We know best. Her hair was of wool. She wore dreadlocks and she had big eyes and she was an African lady. Peace and blessings to one and all. Enjoy your African self. Remember, don't try to fade yourself out to fit into their reality. They're not supreme. They're not supreme. They have that word, European supremacy. That's not what it really is. It's more like European inadequacy or insecurity, which we need to compensate with Black wisdom, Black truth, and tapping into our ancestors, tapping into the tree of life, tapping into the Akashic records, and fulfilling God's mandate through our physical vehicle on earth, resurrecting our divinity and bringing forth Heru through Herekuhuti, the warrior slaying those negative emotions and performing the sacrifice of all that's wicked within us so we can be protectors of Ma'at and our heart can be lighter than a feather and we can be Ma'akeru, triumph, not out of violence, but out of love, peace, and understanding divine law. Everything which is right and just is eternal. Like Black Star was saying, Yassine Bey was saying, he likes to thank them for reaching the understanding. And the understanding he reached is that time is relative and the truth is everlasting. Truth is everlasting. And we as Herukuti, we're protecting that which is everlasting. Ashe, 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 Keru Nefer.